Right then, so we've done all the deckling and we've sealed it all in, and it's the next day now, so our red arrows is all nicely sealed in, got a nice gloss coat on it and everything, and it's dried overnight, so it's had proper time to dry, cure and everything, ready for doing some final stages. But what I want to do first is, before we start kind of messing around with the model itself, is to get all our little bits and bobs sorted. So what we want to do is we want to paint our tyres. We've even got stuff like aerials and pitot tubes to kind of sort out. So for tyres, I find that, you know, it's better to use XF85, which is rubber black by Tamiya, because just kind of like painting your tyres black, it's not as nice as having this kind of a rubbery kind of colour, and XF85 does that job really nice. Now for this, because really, I mean, not all of us have that nice steady hand to be able to paint the tyre and leave our rim all nice and what is it, the light aircraft grey. So what we're going to do, we're going to use capillary action to help the help paint on our tyre. So what we're going to do, we're just going to drop just a couple of drops, okay, 3 drops of water, okay, simple tap water, into our palette. And then we're just going to give our XF85 a bit of a shake, and we're just going to, using our paintbrush, dip into the pot, mix it into the water, and we're just going to keep doing that until we've got a nice, shall we say, quite a thin mixture, but not so thin that it's virtually translucent. Just, that seems quite nice. It's nice enough that when you paint it, it's kind of see-through, it's nice and thin, but it's not mega see-through, you know, it's still going to put some paint down. And what we do is, we simply get our paintbrush and we literally tap the rim of our wheel. And what you might have noticed, I don't know how well you can see on camera, but when you tap it, it literally butts up against the rim, and the capillary action makes the paint flow around. So what I'm going to do, I'll just get a bit of some sort of paper. Hold on, 1 second. And I'll bring it up to the camera so you can see how, by just tapping up to the butt of our rim, and because the paint's so thin, it's literally flowed around our rim. So once we've done that, we can then just okay, little accident there, I've just tapped it. Okay, so we get a bit of tissue and we try and rub this wet paint off our rim and clean it up. Okay, maybe a wet cotton wool bud just to tidy this up. Okay, there we go, that's good. So now it's gone up to the rim, we can now just paint, you know, a lot easier around the edges, because we don't have to paint up to the rim because the capillary action has done that work for us. Okay, so we can then just go around the tyre, not as delicately as we would normally have to. Right, so there we go. The capillary action has nicely given us, well, has done the hard work, gone round it, and then we could just go around, you know, quite nice and easily around the rest of the tyre. Now, because it's so thin, we're probably going to have to do maybe 3 coats of this to get it nice and right. So I'll just do that once more just to show you. We can just tap up against the rim and let the capillary action do the work. Okay, and there you go, the rim's all painted, and then we just nice and easily using the cocktail stick to turn our wheel round, and we can just easily paint around, not having to worry about going up to the rim. And there we go, we've now got another tyre nicely painted. Apply that coat 3 times, as I say, and it should be nice and tiry, and that's your tyres basically done there. Now the next thing as well we want to sort out, just put this away a sec, okay, is our landing gear and stuff. Okay, now what you want to do is use a wash is a good way of basically giving our wheel wells, landing gear and everything a bit of dirt and grime, because you know, they do get they can get quite dirty, especially World War II and stuff, as well as, to be honest with you, I mean, it's a bit plain at the moment as well. I mean, that is just plain light aircraft grey. It's not looking that fancy or anything like that. So if we give this a nice little touch of a bit of wash, it can kind of represent a bit of shadowing, you know, a bit of highlighting, a bit of maybe a bit of dirt and grime, just to liven them up a bit. Now I use my own wash for this, which I'm still in the process of, you know, getting the mixtures right for all the different colours, and this will actually be something you'll be able to buy. And the whole point of this wash is you don't have to thin it or anything like that. Straight out the bottle, you can just paint it on. Okay, it's the right thinness, okay, to give you that nice effect, and you just brush it all over. Okay, nice and simple. You get any bubbles, a quick blow gets rid of the bubbles quite quickly. They do burst pretty quick when you blow on them. Okay, and then what you might want to do is just sort of dry your brush off like this, and you can just get where it's pulled up, where it pulls up, where you get too much of the wash in certain areas, you can use your dry paintbrush just to suck up those bits, those areas where you don't want that wash to be so much. And then that's done, and we can do these gear bay doors as well. Just brush that on, and it just gives it a bit more life to it. Okay, now with these gear bay doors, it's quite possible that a bit of it has gone onto the other side, which it hasn't in this case, but if it ever does, while it's still wet cotton wool bud, you can just easily wipe it up, and because it's still wet, it will come up really quick, really easy, and you won't notice a thing. Okay, so I've just done that. Now I prepared this earlier on these gear bay doors, and this is the wash. As you could probably see, it's given it a bit of life. The wash has gone into any recesses and give it a bit of life, but because we've mainly used gloss on this, with this particular one, we've had a bit of kind of like watermarks, but that's no problem, because what I like to do whenever I apply these washes is I like to use a cotton wool bud, and it's really good how you can rub at where you put the wash on, and you merge and blend the wash to give you a really more nicer, natural looking finish. Okay, now you don't want to wet the cotton wool bud, because if you wet it, you're potentially going to completely remove it, which is a kind of a bonus at the same time, because You can then start again if you wish. If you didn't like the results, you can start again or something. But by using a dry cotton wool bud, all you're doing is just blending, okay, and you're giving that nice light kind of all round sort of dirty, grimy, dusty, weathered look to it all, and you get to keep all the wash in the recesses as well, so it still looks nice in those recess panel lines and stuff, okay. And what we've done there, that has nicely now come up. And what you've got to do as well is just make sure that there's no little cotton wool hairs kind of being catched, so make sure you kind of pull them off, because you'll have little hairs sticking off. But that is all nicely nicely weathered, and our other sides are all nice, clean and shiny, okay. I also prepared this bit of landing gear as well, and you can do the same here too. Just give it a bit of a wipe with your cotton wool bud and just blend it in, blend this wash in so it all looks nice, okay. I do find that it works best on a matte surface as well. It does blend that little bit better on a matte surface. But because we use the Hanance range, the Hanance, if you remember, leaves that what was it, a satin finish, right? So it still works. I mean, you get kind of like a different result with like satin and gloss, because it tends to go into the recesses a lot better, and it seems to wipe away a lot more, so you end up with a result where the you end up seeing it ends up looking like a very clean sort of bit of landing gear, but you've got it in the recesses and corners and stuff, so it's still got that bit of kind of shadowing, dirty look. But if you did a matte, you'd kind of get like a nice, you'd get it in the recesses and everything, but you'd also end up with a nice kind of all round sort of a light dusty looking effect, which can be quite impressive, okay. And if you can't get into certain areas, you can bite, hold on, you can bite the end of your cotton wool bud and make a bit of a point, so you can just get in those little hard to reach places a bit better, and just blend this wash in a bit more, okay. So that now has all nicely been blended in, and what we've got is, instead of a bit of a bland, shall we say, flat, plain, light aircraft grey like this, we've now got a bit of shadowing, a bit of dirt and grime, okay, and it's just nice for the red arrows, because it's still looking quite clean, but you've got something going on there giving it a bit more life, okay. So just done that, okay. What we also need to do now is, we have, if I can just find it, we've got our exhaust, and we've got these our aerials. We've also got our Part.8, which should be silver, which I accidentally sprayed red. We need to spray these up now, and what I'm going to use for this is dark iron. Now this is Mr. Metal colour dark iron. What this is a bufferball paint, okay, and these are really nice, really cool. What they do is you spray it on, and and what you do is you let it dry, and then you give it a bit of a buff with a cloth, and what happens is, as you buff it, it really does give you that nice natural metal finish, and it really is a nice set of paint. So we're going to spray that on our exhaust. I'll probably use one for the Part.8, but we need something maybe a bit more silvery, and then all these little aerials and stuff, these are supposed to be like black. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to carry on getting my tyres and stuff done and my washes and stuff. I'm going to spray these up black because I mean that's pretty plain and simple, and then I'm going to show you how to use these buffable paints, so I'll be back in a sec. Right, so I've come along now and you know I've tidied up all my little bits here and finished off our tyres and everything, so these are all now ready to just glue onto the model. And as I said, we was going to kind of come along and get this done, but I did actually, my own fault, I forgot we do actually have like a kind of a bleach boned kind of colour that we need to do on our middle, what can we call this, some sort of a band that just goes round the canopy. You can probably see it here on our decal sheet here. There's like that, it's white on there, but it is actually like a creamy colour. And what we're going to use for that is Vallejo 71075 sand. I find this is a nice colour because you do kind of find with a few RAF aircraft, the Sea Vixen has it, you have this kind of sandy kind of bleach bone sort of colour that kind of goes around the rim of our aircraft. So what we've got to remember here is something I forgot, so it's a kind of a bit of a lesson to learn here, that when you mask up over decals, you got to be careful, because when you demask, right, it's quite possible that you could rip the decals up, so we've got to be careful. Now a few things we could do just to make sure this doesn't happen. We can get, I've just got to mask up the other side, so what you could do is you can put the tape, masking tape, on the back of your hand, and you can basically pull up like skin, oil. You can even maybe, if you've got a bit of a sweaty hands, just kind of maybe rub it along your fingers and stuff. This is just to take the tackiness out of it and make it less sticky. It does make it a little trickier to kind of apply, but it's going to make the masking tape that nice, that bit better to, well, not stick to the model. So then we're not going to pull up our decals as much as we probably would if we just put this masking tape straight on. We shouldn't pull up any decals because we have put some, you know, a pretty hefty amount of gloss on this, and we have kind of sort of moistened up with, you know, sweat and stuff to make it less tacky. So now that's in place, we can get on with the sand. Now I've already pre-mixed this into the cup, but it was just a bit of airbrush thinners and our Vallejo Model Air sand. I'm just going to check our flow, and we're good. We're running at about maybe 15 psi, and we want to, and I'm just going to come in kind of close but not pull so much paint back so we don't get spidering, because I don't want to overspray onto all our nice paintwork. So I'm just coming in nice and light, nice and close, and just lightly letting the paint come out slowly so we can prevent our overspray. Okay, nice light coats. Want to be careful of what angle we're shooting at, because we don't want to be shooting at this angle, okay, because then the spray will not only hit where we want it to spray, but it'll go across the model. And you know, maybe if we shoot in that direction, if we keep it nice and close and just kind of think where my overspray is gonna go, at what angle I'm spraying at, just to make sure we don't get it all over our model. Okay, you just want to get this all nice and sandy colour. Okay, a little bit more. Right then, that's looking good now. So you probably want to let this dry, but just for camera I'm going to take this off now. You want to very careful, well, you want to not pull it up straight up like 90-degree angle. You want to, where you're pulling it, kind of pull it very slowly like this, and it just prevents the whole kind of ripping up decals and stuff. So pull it at this angle, not like this and pull up, okay, pull away, okay, and very slowly just bring it off, and we've got no decals or anything that's come off there. And as you can see, we've got our nice little pattern there, and when we unmask, that should look nice. And then we'll do the same this side as well, pulling away, and that's come off nicely. Okay, so because we're all shall we say done with our spraying now, well actually no, first off, okay, we want this to dry, and because this is looking matte now, actually what we want to do is we want to apply some gloss to this area here just to shine this up. So we'll let that dry, we'll apply some gloss, and then we can unmask the canopy. Okay, but until then I'll put this aside and we can work on our other pieces. So I'm just gonna, well, I may as well show you something else. I mean, what we've done here is we've got leftover paint, and we've got quite a bit. So to get the tops off our Vallejo, use a paper towel and just take the tops off like that. Make sure there's no bubbles inside or it pours out the side, and we just pour it back in. Okay, and we can pour this back in because we know that we've used Vallejo actual thinners. Okay, if we'd use, say, X20A, Tamiya's thinners, or even Hanant's, I wouldn't pour it back in, because you can use X20A with Vallejo or even Hanant's with Vallejo, but pouring it back in I don't like to do, because you can, once it's kind of settled and it's sat in there for days, weeks and whatnot, you can have some sort of reactions sometimes, depending on what manufacturer paint or what manufacturer thinners. I know I used X20A on some Citadel paints, poured it back in, and it did kind of go a bit, you had kind of lots of little gloopy bits, so just be careful with that. But the same manufacturer of thinners should be okay. Okay, and we just want to clean this out now, so getting a bit of where's it gone, our Vallejo airbrush cleaner, pour some of that in there. Okay, put some cotton tissue paper in there, turn it upside down just to get all the nasty bits out, and we're just cleaning this nicely. Okay, and then we just put some more in, and you basically keep spraying until you get nice clear thinners and no paint coming through. And that's looking good now. Okay, and that's a nice quick colour change. So what we've got to do now is we have little antennas and pitot tubes and exhaust. Now, because we're going to do the exhaust and the pitot tube with some nice buffable paints, you want to prime it up black, which is quite nice actually, because these aerials and stuff, they need to be black on the model anyway, so we're all good there. And I'm just going to whack this in neat, okay, because we're only doing little bits. Little bits I find you can get away with not thinning with our Vallejo stuff. Okay, check flow. You probably have to put the PSI up around about 20. Okay, we have got a little one here that has actually come off the sprue, so we'll put that on some tweezers. Okay, and we'll just spray this black. Okay, nice and quick, no messing about. All around. Okay. And then we want to get right inside our exhaust here, so I'm going to put the needle literally in there and blast a bit in there. Now it's probably all spidered and everything inside there, but that's no big deal, because at the end of the day it's quite hard to see in there anyway, and it's not a big deal. And then we're just going to spray around. Okay, and that's our exhaust nicely primed up for... oh no, that's come off. Damn. Okay, we'll have to use a... I think, hold on, let's test this first. Hold on. Let's put this down. Let's see how much of this goes in our hole. It does go in quite a bit, so we can get away with putting this on a set of tweezers. And we want to prime this up as well now. Nice and black. Okay. Right, now these are aerials and stuff. These are meant to be black. We'll probably maybe gloss them up or something, so I'll put them to one side because we don't need them now. Right, we've got some more extra black in here, so we'll pour this back in very quickly. Put the lid back on. That's our black sorted. Another quick colour change. Now, we've been using acrylics, and we're about to start using lacquer-based buffable paints. Okay, so we really need to make sure that our airbrush is actually really nice and clean from all our acrylic paints. Okay. So what I'm going to do for a quick colour change is I'm actually going to pour in some cellulose thinners to give it a good clean out. Okay, pour in some of that, spray it through, clean the needle end, spray a bit, clean the needle end again. Okay. Well, that should be a lot cleaner than normal. Okay, let's put that to one side. What we're going to do first, we're going to come in with our dark iron. Give this a bit of a shake. Okay, and you want to kind of see, you can kind of see at the bottom, sort of maybe bring in the light a bit, and you can just see and make sure you got no bits or anything clogging up on the bottom. There we go. Okay, now this stuff can be expensive, can be messy, it is extremely kind of potent and pretty toxic stuff. Okay, so you really want to have doors open, extractor fans on, gas masks on and everything. And I'll just get another clean bit of paper towel, right? Because when you pour this in, because it's so thin, it just seems to go everywhere. So I'm going to pour this in. Okay, and it's already dripped down as it normally does. Okay, so I'm just wiping that off so we don't have it splattering off at the end. Put our lid back on because it really does evaporate pretty quickly. Okay, and it just goes everywhere. Okay, so we put that back on. Then we want to put our PSI down to about maybe the 15 to 10 PSI. Okay, you really don't want this stuff on a high PSI. Okay, make sure our flow's good. Okay, and we're going to come in like we did before. We're going to blast in the middle. Right, and just make sure we get all inside. and then we're just going to spray around nicely. And you don't want this to get too wet or pool up. Okay, as soon as it gets wet, just move on somewhere else. Okay, just nice light coats. Okay, now that is looking kind of just black, and it's looking quite sooty as well. Okay, and that's that colour. So we need to pour this back in, because as I say, it is pretty expensive. I forgot how much actually this stuff was, but I know you can spray this away really quick. So I'll pour that back in, wipe any excess. Okay, spray out what's left in there. You don't have to worry either with this stuff about colour changing so much, because it doesn't seem to matter, to be honest. So we give this one a shake, and this is the aluminium. Okay, give this a shake, open it up, we pour some in. Okay, we've got a drip as usual with this stuff. Okay, and as you can see, I mean, I've just started spurting it out, and we've got none of that dark iron going on. Let's screw this lid on, and we're going to give our pitot tube a nice spray of aluminium. Okay, nice light coat, and that should be good. And then you want to leave this to dry for a bit, so I'm just going to pour back in aluminium just to save it. That's them done. Okay, and I'll just spray the excess out. And then you want to clean your airbrush out with cellulose thinners, okay? Because our acrylic airbrush cleaner and everything isn't really going to touch this stuff, okay? It really is a lacquer-based thing, and you want to be thinking lacquer-based rather than acrylic-based when using this stuff, okay? So we're going to tip this up and get whatever's in there, okay? And then we're going to pour some more cellulose in. We're going to spray this through. Keep spraying until it comes out nice and clean. Okay, a little bit more. Remember, this is pretty potent. Okay, there we go. So that's cleaned that out, and then because I'm using acrylics next, well actually I'm using gloss next, I just want to add a bit of our airbrush cleaner just to get our airbrush thinking acrylics again. Okay, so that's all nicely cleaned out, and what I want now is I want a bit of gloss. Okay, and I'm going to pour this in our cup, check our flow, and I'm going to come back to our aerials and stuff. Okay, and we're just going to give these a bit of a gloss coat. Okay, right, so these aren't looking matte or anything, and you know, looking out of place to the rest of the nice glossy model we've got. And while we're at this, we can get our red arrows aircraft. Let's just put this out the way a bit more. And where we've just sprayed our sand colour, we can now give it a bit of a gloss, so this also looks in place with the rest of our glossy look we've got. Okay, cut to wear to dry it off. Okay, because we have got a bit of catching up, should we say, with glossing that little bit up there to match the rest. Okay, so cutting to air, and then I'm putting a bit more of a gloss coat on now. Okay, so that's had 2 coats, should be nice. I'm probably going to concentrate on polishing that area up a bit. Okay, so we'll put this to one side. Okay, put our airbrush down, and then we've got our buffable areas here to do. Right, so the cool stuff is with this, if you get a bit of a cloth, okay, and we lightly give it a rub. Okay, we want to just lightly rub it first. Okay, what I'm doing now, just lightly rubbing it, and what was looking quite black and almost kind of sooty, smoky, okay, is now starting to buff up and looking all nice and naturally metal. Okay, and that is looking quite good now. Okay, and I'll do a little pitot tube as well. Take that off that, and we'll give this a bit of a rub as well. Lightly first rub it, and then you can apply a bit more pressure and more pressure until it really starts to kind of shine up and look all naturally metal. Okay, being careful as well with this stuff, you don't want to be getting your fingerprints on them, okay, because that will really show up. Also any kind of imperfections, okay, so you know, if you've scratched or something, whatever part you're spraying, with this buffable stuff, it's gonna like bring it up. Okay, so I'm just gonna put that back on our tweezers, and now I can see that's looking all nice and buffed up. So to kind of show you on camera, let's see if we can bring this in. Okay, I don't know how well that's focusing in, but you can probably see that we've got a nice bit of a natural metal finish going on after buffing it. But what we can also do, if we want to go a bit more, say, we can, you know, because we give it a light buff, you can then start getting a little bit more, should we say, a bit more rough with it, and you can really kind of start to buffet it and buffet it and buffet it. But you got to be careful that if you buff a bit too much and you really go for it, you can buff away the paint. Okay, but it can actually take quite a lot before you actually buff the paint away. Okay, so we can really buff at this, and it's really, I mean, I'm already seeing this now, and it's really kind of buffing up quite nice and shiny and everything, and looking quite naturally metally finishy. Okay, and that's looking quite good now. Okay, I'll really give that a good scene too. Ooh. So I'll show you on camera again now. Okay, I don't know how well that's focusing in, but we've got a lot more nice and shinier now. Okay, and that is gonna look really good on the end of our red arrows, and the same goes for our pitot tube. That's looking really nice as well, and we can buff this up more if we want to, just to really give that really nice shiny pitot tube on the end. Okay, put that back on the tweezers a sec. Right then, so we've now got all our little bits and bobs all done and ready to go on our model. Okay, but first off, okay, we want to do some last bits of finishing touches to our red arrows. What we want to do, well, what you can do, this is kind of optional, is come along and do some polishing, like some proper, you know, sort of like a spit and polish kind of thing, but not using spit, but we're going to use Tamiya's polishing compound. Now I'm going to show you how to do that next, but problem is my hands now have got this this buffable paint on, as you can see on my fingers, and I can pretty much guarantee you if I start handling this, I'm going to start rubbing on buffable paint onto this and it's just going to ruin it. So I'm going to go clean my hands, get a glove on, and we can get on with the last bits of this now.